They say it takes 10,000 hours to master something. It's this magic number that gets thrown around, implying that if you just put in the time, you'll emerge as some kind of grandmaster. I've been coding for about 5 years now, and if I do the math on the late nights, the focused weekends, and the full-time work, I've definitely crossed the 10,000 hour threshold. And I can tell you for a fact that I am nowhere near to being a master. What I have become is competent. And more importantly, I'm aware of how much I still don't know. My journey has taken me from thinking that an Excel formula was the absolute peak of technology to building full-stack applications and games to play from scratch. And along the way, I've learned some crucial lessons. Not the ones that you read in textbooks, but the ones that only come from banging your head against the wall for hours on end. They have nothing to do with which programming language is best or what framework you should use. Today, I'm going to share the 5 biggest lessons I learned after 10,000 hours of coding. The first and most important lesson is this: find the vision before you learn the syntax. This is completely backwards from what we're taught in school. We're told to start with the building blocks, memorizing functions, loops, and data types. This was a huge mistake. I didn't start my journey because I wanted to be a coder. I started because I was lazy. I had this volunteer gig doing logistics, and it was crushingly tedious. I'm talking about manually cross-referencing names and assignments between multiple massive spreadsheets for hours every week. It was a recipe for mistakes and burnout. Then, one day, someone showed me the Excel formula VLOOKUP, and it was absolute magic. I could type this one weird, cryptic sentence, and it would do an hour of mind-numbing work for me in a split second. That was the spark. I didn't care how it worked. I cared that it solved a very real, very painful problem in my life. This idea really hit home when I took a couple of coding classes in college. The first one was a stats class using a language called R. We were just given code to copy and paste to find the mean of some numbers, and it felt powerful, like I was a real programmer, but it was also completely hollow. It was code for the sake of code, totally disconnected from any result I cared about. But then I took a market research class. That professor completely changed my life because he understood the power of vision. He didn't start by teaching us how to write a for loop. He started by posing a fascinating question. He had us analyze thousands of Amazon reviews, testing the hypothesis that reviews with more sharp letters like V, A, and W because those letters subconsciously feel more aggressive. I thought it was crazy, but we ran the analysis and it was true. The data showed a statistically significant correlation, and my mind was blown. In that moment, I felt like I had a superpower. I could see an invisible truth in the world that no one else could. That's when I understood. You don't learn to code for the code itself, but you learn to code for what it allows you to see and do. This leads me to the second major lesson. Solve human problems, not technical ones. As coders, it's so easy to fall in love with technical challenges. We obsess over elegant algorithms and efficient databases. But here's the thing. Nobody else cares. Your users don't care at all. Once I got better at coding, I started doing some consulting work, building powerful analysis scripts for big companies. I was proud of the code. It was clean and it was fast. But my clients would come back to me confused. They'd send emails saying, "I tried to open the file, but it's just a bunch of text." They didn't know how to run a script from the terminal. My brilliant code was completely useless to them. It was like I handed them the keys to a spaceship, but they didn't know how to open the door, let alone fly it. My first reaction was defensiveness. It's not my fault they can't use the terminal. But that, of course, was the completely wrong attitude. The problem wasn't my client, the problem was my solution. I was solving a technical problem, not their human problem. Their problem wasn't just, I need this data analyzed, it was, I need to easily get insights from my data. So I forced myself to learn the basics of web development, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and eventually React. I went back with a client with a simple web page I built in a few hours. Compared to the complex algorithm on the back end, the front end was trivial, but it had one big, beautiful button that said, upload your file. They clicked it, their data was processed, and the results appeared on the screen in a clean chart. The look on their face said everything. I had spent weeks on the algorithm, but the few hours that I spent on the simple button and chart was what actually delivered the value. Lesson number 3. The grind is real, and to survive it, you need a fun project. Let's be honest, it's not all big ideas and user epiphanies. A lot of coding is a straight-up brutal grind. After I got hooked on data, I enrolled in a master's program, and I had to go back and learn all the fundamentals that I'd eagerly skipped. Object-oriented programming, data structures, algorithms. It felt like learning the grammar rules for a dead language. It was abstract, disconnected, and I was working with these old boring datasets about housing prices from the 1970s. This is the phase where imposter syndrome thrives. You feel like you're going nowhere, and this is the point where most people quit. So how do you get through it? You have to find an escape hatch. For me, I was getting so bored in one of my classes that on the side, I decided to build an AI that could play Flappy Bird. I used a library called Pygame and something called DeepQ Learning. The first few thousand attempts were a comical disaster. But I remember the moment that I came back to my computer after letting it run for a few hours, and I watched it flawlessly weave through the pipes for minutes on end. The feeling of watching my creation learn and surpass my own ability was exhilarating. That one fun project taught me more than a dozen boring assignments, and it gave me the motivation to push through the fundamentals. The fourth lesson I learned is to have fun and learn just enough to be dangerous. Once I started learning about statistical tests in my bachelor's and master's programs, I was like a kid with a new hammer. Everything in the world looked like a nail that needed to be hit with a t-test. So I started doing what's called p-value hacking. I went around asking my friends two very invasive questions: how much money they made, and which way they put the toilet paper on the roll holder. It's a fantastic way to find out which of your friends will humor you with weird obsessions. I gathered my tiny biased dataset and ran a t-test to see if toilet paper orientation could predict income. For the record, it could not. Now, was this research scientifically rigorous? Absolutely not. It was statistical garbage, but it was fun and it was practice. I was taking an abstract concept from the classroom and applying it to the real world, even though it was a silly way. It's that kind of playful exploration that breaks down the barrier between academic knowledge and practical skill, and it makes information actually stick. And that brings me to my final lesson. You are what you build. After years of learning these different pieces, data science, web development, AI, the real magic happens when you stop being just a learner and start being a builder. Your skills become your toolkit. And the most fulfilling work comes when you use that toolkit to build things that are uniquely you. Your portfolio of personal projects tells a story about who you are in a way that a resume never can. For me, I'm obsessed with productive goal setting and frameworks for self-improvement, so I built an app called repentdaily.app that implements a proven 7-step process for achieving goals. I'm a long-distance runner and wanted someone to talk to on those quiet miles, and so I built myself a personal AI therapist that I could yap to about my childhood trauma. I have strong religious beliefs and deep questions, so I used AI to analyze the entire Book of Mormon to explore those ideas in a new way. And the results were very interesting. I love computer games, so I taught myself a new framework, Phaser.js, and built a simple but addicting soccer juggling game. Your projects become a reflection of who you are and what you care about. So what exactly did I learn after 10,000 hours of coding? I learned that even though I started with the wrong tool, Excel, it still gave me the right reason of why. I learned that vision is more important than syntax, that solving human problems is infinitely more valuable than solving technical ones, and that you have to find your own fun to survive the grind. I'm still learning every single day, but the biggest lesson is this: coding isn't about talking to computers, it's about finding a new, incredibly powerful way to express your own ideas and solve your own problems. And eventually, if you're lucky, you get to help other people solve theirs too. And I'm just glad that my solutions finally have buttons now. Okay, I think that's it. Bye.